Good evening, and welcome to Wednesday Matters, because it does, because you do. And we are here for you to make your life even more wonderful, to connect you to the power and the spirit within you, um, to make your life better, if better is what you have in mind. And even if it's already fabulous, can't it be even more fabulous? That's what we're about. Connecting to spirit and spiritual power in such a way that we really become a beneficial presence on this planet. And in doing so, change our lives for the better, change our communities, change our world for better. And if that sounds at all appealing to you, then you've come to the right place. And thanks for being here. Good evening, Heidi. Glad you're here. I have a thought or two. I know I always have a thought or two, but I have a couple of interesting ones, I think. They're interesting to me, at least, this evening. And I'm going to ask you all to kind of join in with me. I have to tell you that this beginning part is all based on an assumption that you all agree with me most of the time, and that we're all part of something wonderful together. And so, what I'd like to do is say kind of an opening statement and then break it down and have all of you join me in saying it if you agree, which I think you will. You've been around long enough. Another happy Wednesday. Yes, it is, Lainey. Thank you for saying so. So, here's my kind of opening statement based on the idea that tonight's theme is the universe is calling. And I'll get into all of that more in just a few minutes. But first of all, I'd like to read this statement. Think about it, listen to it, and then if you agree with me, we'll say it together, okay? So, the universe is calling. We are here to answer the call with spiritual truth, with spiritual action, and with love. To be agents of change in our lives, in our communities, and in our world. So, if you kind of agree with that thought, or just don't violently disagree, I invite you to say this with me. I'll say it, and then you repeat, okay? Till we get to the end. It's not long, you know that. So, the universe is calling.
The universe is calling.
We are here to answer the call.
We are here to answer the call.
With spiritual truth.
With spiritual truth.
With spiritual action.
With spiritual action.
And with love.
And with love.
To be agents of change in our lives.
To be agents of change in our lives.
In our communities.
In our communities.
And in our world.
And in our world.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Feels good to me. So maybe we'll do that one more time at the end of the evening, just so that you have kind of a sense of it. And then you can let me know what you think about it and whether or not you agree with it. If you'd like to adjust it, I sort of like it. It kind of came real easily to me, and those are generally things that I figure are spirit inspired. It didn't come, well, it came out of my head, sort of, but it didn't come out of my head. You know what I mean. So I like to think that spirit is behind this whole thing. And I'm very excited about this whole idea of the universe is calling, which I will, in fact, talk about. I heard someone say or read, and here's what I know. I wrote it down, but I didn't write down who said it. I'm going to have to say that again later tonight, too, so bear with me. I've got to remember to write names down. Anyway, someone said this week, and I heard, I'm pretty sure I heard it and didn't read it. Never has there been a time that impacted the whole planet as this has. And I kind of wanted to argue. You know, there was a part of me that went to, well, there was the Spanish flu and there was World War, pick one. And then I thought, maybe not in such a way. I mean, war is a different thing. That's sort of a choice. This one had little to do with choice. And it has, in fact, impacted the entire planet this past, well, 15 months or more in our experience, and even more than that if you go back to its roots. Interesting, don't you think? And if that's true, and I don't know how it could not be, does it not also seem that perhaps, just perhaps, the universe is trying to get our attention? Trying to get us to pay attention and find a way for us to work together to make things better. The more I read in the news about the fact that, you know, third world countries still don't have nearly enough vaccines, and we're throwing some out, and we're not the only ones. I'm not going to paint us as the bad guy necessarily here, but I think we could do better, or I think better can be done. Let me put it that way, without making anybody wrong. I think better can be done. So why not become the agents of change, each of us in our own way? Um, I agree with you, Heidi. In my experience, I have not been aware of a true world war. It's a lot of big countries, um, and certainly in many ways those attracted um, the attention of people all over the world. But that's not the same thing as everybody being affected by it. Mm, yeah. So, I'd like you to think on what we just said, because it's really quite a pledge. And I see a few of you have jumped on right away. I love you guys when you do that. Thank you. Like I said, I didn't come out of my thinking brain. It's not a it wasn't a left brain experience. I sat down, picked up a pen, and the only thing I did to change it at all was to move a few of the comments to different places. Um, the word retreat kept coming up for me this week. I don't know why. And I kept thinking, retreat, retreat, retreat. Is something trying to tell me to run away, to get away, to go to a quieter place, to go within what? Why is this word keep coming up? And then I wrote it down and I looked at it and I went, oh, retreat. Now, for those of you who may not have been tutored in religious science, as many of us were, you know that treatment is prayer. It's just another word for prayer. It's a form of prayer, but it's basically prayer. And what if, my mind said, what if retreat is not a call to run away, but a call to pray again? That perhaps I was outlining, perhaps I was not as clear as I could be. What if it's not run away, but go within? Pray again. Okay, now that I've planted that little seed, I think I'll just get on with what I was going to talk about. And you can think about retreating and what I'm about to say. Okay? Okay. As I said, my theme for the evening, and maybe for the rest of my life, I'll have to give that some thought. is the universe's calling. And it really seemed to last night, or whatever you call 4:11 a.m., which seemed to me more like the middle of the night than morning. I was watching the lunar eclipse at 4:11 a.m. and I couldn't help but being awed by the spectacle of the moon disappearing, if only for a few moments, and then reappearing in all of its bright, shining glory. We're moon fans in this house, so we couldn't miss that. Nonetheless, the very fact that we, Earthlings, our little planet, stood between the sun and the moon and cast a shadow that made the moon appear to disappear somehow made it an awe-filled moment, even at 4:11. The whole thing, of course, had me thinking about the power of casting a shadow, which brought up a song in my head that was sung by, oh, it'll come to me. It will in a moment. I had it in my head a moment ago. Um, well, doesn't matter. Song called "You Cast a Long Shadow on Me" that instantly came to mind and was running through my head as I was watching the moon appear and disappear. As I watched it disappear, for a split second, my mind traveled back to ages past when humanity would see a similar eclipse and wonder if perhaps the world was coming to an end. Or if the gods were angry and going to take away the nightlight. In those times, there was no real understanding that it was we, our planet, that was casting the shadow. And that without the light from the sun being behind us, there could be no shadow. God wasn't angry. The light would return. Life would go on. The darkness was really only an illusion, created by standing between the light and the object of our attention. How often do you think we are standing with our back to the light and wondering why that which we were looking for, looking at, is disappearing without ever realizing that it's our shadow? Still, thousands of years ago, there was fear, as there is today. The unknown will do that to us, won't it? So there I was in the wee small hours, and I couldn't help but think about the awesomeness of the universe. The universe. Everything that is created, everything that is not created, everything that exists, everything that has existed, everything that will exist. What I'd like you to consider tonight is the fact that this everything is calling you. Even now, as you sit or stand or lay where you are, the universe is calling you. I know it is. Incidentally, it shouldn't go unsaid that The Universe is Calling is also the title of a book written in 1993 by Eric Butterworth, the same year that this genius wrote Spiritual Economics, which is my all-time favorite economics book. Talk about being on a roll. Both books in one year. The Universe is Calling is a book in which Butterworth, who was a unity minister, defines prayer as the central element in meditation that puts us in alignment with the divine. Alignment with the divine. Who wouldn't want that? Ideally, he writes, in prayer and meditation, we are focused in mind and resting in the divine flow that rushes and streams into us from the supportive universe all around. Oh, the man can write. Now, in an effort to be completely transparent, I have to tell you that as I was taking notes for tonight's talk, I came across some wonderful writing about the universe. The writing had no attribution. I told you I was going to have to do this again. So I have no idea who to credit, because I would. And some of the writing sounded like me, but I don't know for sure how much. Sometimes I'll grab a phrase or two that I really like or hear somewhere, and then I'll make my notes around it, and then I'll file it away with a title on it, and that's kind of what happened with this. So I'd like to take the opportunity to thank whatever angel put some of these thoughts in my path and my mind. And I do want to acknowledge that the next thought was not originally mine, I don't think. The note said, the poets have said that universe means one song. Grammatically, that is not correct. Uni does mean one, but verse comes from the Greek vertere, meaning to turn. So a more accurate definition of universe might be to turn together as one. It's what the planets do, isn't it? As we revolve around the sun. Can we turn together? Turn from our fears for ourselves, from our fears for our families, from our fears for our world, to a new and determined faith in our future, in our families' futures, in our world's futures. We have a choice. We have a tool. We can pray. Rightly understood, prayer has immense power. But we've got to remember that prayer is not something that you do to God or for God or say to God. It is not a performance you put on for God, but rather in the silence, a time in which you allow God, the universe, to do something through you. And that something can change you. And in changing you can change your world. So let's take a moment here. Let's look at the world, shall we? It's been an interesting week. Don't they all seem to be interesting lately? Interesting in that sense of the purported old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. This week alone was the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd's death. There was a complete lunar eclipse. The Republicans have been comparing the January 6th insurrection to an average tourist day at the White House. In the United States, the lowest numbers of COVID cases are being recorded since the pandemic began. Hooray. While India continues its devastating fight against the disease. Another mass shooting happened today, this one in San Jose, California. That's way too close to home for me. And there have been more attacks on Asian Americans. I just don't understand that at all. And much to the surprise of anyone who lived through the 60s, Bob Dylan turned 80. this week. Oh, there was more, of course, but I only have an hour. You get the idea. Whatever faith you may have or claim to have, these interesting times have a tendency to create doubt, to create fear about our own security and the safety and security of those that we love, our lifestyle, our country. And we're too often, I believe, left feeling helpless and unable to do anything. But we don't need to feel helpless. We don't need to be impotent. We, each one of us, you, we are capable of creating great change. And I believe the universe is calling us to do just that. I am not suggesting that we all march on the state capitol or Washington, D.C. That's been done, and the last time didn't turn out so well. What I am suggesting is that we meditate or pray, and, if you will, that we listen. Listen to hear what the calling universe is saying. Listen to learn and to know and perhaps even to do what may be revealed, to create a more perfect life and a more perfect world. Just what is this thing that's calling? Well, it's everything, isn't it? It's your life, it is life itself, and it is your higher self and your inner wisdom calling you out of your sleep to rise up and respond. You know, there are many biblical stories where God tries to wake up a sleeping human. And in my experience, in most of those, they had to be called 3 times before they went, what? So how do we access it? How do we communicate with it? How do we respond? Again, in one of those notes that I don't think was mine, but it might have been, it said it could hardly be clearer. In prayer, go within to the still point of your oneness with God. And in that time of silence, listen. For the universe is calling. In that secret awareness that the whole universe is present where you are, project the life and energy and substance of your being. And as you pray from this consciousness, the universe will rush and pour and stream into you in fulfillment of your dreams. I don't think I wrote that. Someone asked me recently about signs that they were or were not supposed to be doing a certain things. I have my own favorite story about asking for a sign and getting an immediate response. Most of you have heard it. But in case you haven't, let me take just a moment of your time. It was at probably the lowest point in my life. I had divorced my first husband, who was a dear friend, and was till his dying day. I was involved in a second horrible marriage. One that never, I have no one to blame. It just never should have happened. It lasted 10 months, if that tells you anything at all. He had moved out, and I had rented out the master bedroom to an adorable South African man. and the bottom downstairs bedroom to an equally adorable young woman and her daughter. So I was sitting in what was meant to be the study but had become my bedroom, sitting at the desk and wondering what the hell I was going to do with my life. I had not too long before that become involved in metaphysics and was really, really called to it. I had become a practitioner. Um, but I didn't want to keep doing what I was doing business wise. So I remember very clearly looking up at the roof because I couldn't see the sky, so I let the roof pretend to be the sky. And I said, God, if there's something I'm supposed to do, please tell me what it is. A sign would be great. A little note floating down from the ceiling that lands on the desk and tells me what to do, and I'll do it. Within 10 seconds, the phone rang, and it was husband number one saying, I don't really know why I'm calling you, except that I just got this strange, strong impulse to give you a call and tell you to go become a minister. You'd be great at it. You'd be happy with it. That's all I have to say. I don't think I could even speak. I remember crying. Signs do come. It may not be a message floating out of the sky, but if you look for them, they're there. So it didn't surprise me then when I was on a website called Follow Your Own Rhythm, and I was reading a great article by someone named Borbala, who goes by Barbie. And the article was on ways in which the universe speaks to us, and I wanted to pass parts of her list along to those of you who may be wondering where to look or what to look for. The first thing she said was signs come through people. Well, that was certainly my experience. It might be a random person, it might be someone you know, or someone who says something or does something that triggers something in you. She says, look for it in synchronicity. That those are some of the most powerful ways that the universe communicates with you. And the more and more you experience synchronistic events, the more you start paying attention and realizing that, in fact, someone's trying to tell you something. Look for it in numbers, phone numbers, addresses, or seeing the time on the clock, 11:11, 2:22, 3:33, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. They can all have meanings, and if you stop and look for the meaning in them, you'll probably find it. A friend of mine's last name was D'Angelo. And when her husband was alive, when she saw 11:11, she felt like that was just, she could take a moment and communicate with him. And they did. She has since passed on, and now 11:11 is my time with the angels. And when I see it on the clock, I stop and I talk to her. And I thank her. And I figure she's trying to get my attention. Songs. Have you ever noticed that when you've got a question in your head, if you turn the radio on, almost immediately a song will pop up with some sort of an answer? Listen to the lyrics. Pay attention. Sometimes the signs come in just a word or a physical sign. Think billboard and passing buses. Maybe you'll see a road sign that says slow down. Might be trying to tell you to slow down in life and be more present. Or my car talks to me. I didn't know that until it did. I was driving home from a very long day in Central California. 3 hours up, a luncheon, a rehearsal of sorts, a wedding, and then headed for 3 hours towards home. And I knew I needed to take a break. I knew I was tired. But I was in one of those long passages where there just isn't much of anything. And I kept thinking, when I get to Buellton, I will stop. And all of a sudden, this thing popped up on my dashboard. This literally a sign from my car that said, driver's attention is low, take a break. So there I was then, slightly more awake, paying attention, talking to my car, saying, I can't take a break right here. There's no place to take a break, but I'm going just a couple more miles down the road and then I will take a break. And it was obviously farther than I thought, because a few minutes later, the same sign, brighter, came on and said, driver attention low, take a break. Luckily, I was at the turnoff. I have no idea what the car might have said to me next. Pay attention to your dreams. Your dreams speak to you. Yeah, I know. Some of you are great at remembering your dreams. Others say, I don't dream. We all dream. We just don't all remember. Have a notepad next to your bed. And if you catch yourself dreaming, take a few notes. Couldn't hurt. Look for signs in nature. Look for signs within you, just a deep feeling or a knowing that something is right or something's not right. Pay attention. She talked about looking for signs in objects. She said when the universe can communicate with you through objects such as when you find something you've been looking for, or when objects fall off shelves or out of cabinets. I find things I'm looking for all the time. I find things other people are looking for all of the time. I'm real good. They call me the finder around here. But I also pay attention when books jump off the shelves and want my attention. Pay attention to that. You probably already do. She says pay attention to technical malfunctions or failures. You know, if your internet goes out and there's no service or Wi-Fi, or your text message doesn't want to send, your computer shuts off, your movie won't load. These are all signs that can be interpreted in different ways. Pay attention. Stop for a minute and say, what are you trying to tell me? Your body, of course, talks to you all the time. Lots of signs. Pain, symptoms, ailments are all ways that the universe communicates to you that there is something you need to be paying attention to. So do. Setbacks, roadblocks, detours, delays, all of those things. When out of nowhere your flight gets delayed, or your interview gets canceled, or you get sick, life might be telling you not to go that way. When everything is falling apart, sometimes it's the universe trying to tell you that you need a change. Pay attention to the messages that you get in meditation and prayer. When you're in the stillness and you connect with yourself, great wisdom gets unlocked. And that opens the floodgates, she says, for spirit to communicate with you so that you can receive signs and guidance and answers. The sentence she used that I loved, I think, the most is, the universe expresses its intelligence in great simplicity. It's our minds and egos that want to know why, what, when. Get out of your head. Trust your gut. She says, too, that there's a divine order and timing to everything. We know that, don't we? Trust that. And don't forget, she says, that you are universal spirit. It is the essence of who you are. So it's really your own self guiding yourself to where you're supposed to be. So back to those notes that I found. Remember, they said that we're dealing with a creative process that only needs a channel, not a ritual or a well formulated pattern. Care must be used to keep from thinking that the treatment or the words are making things happen. They aren't. The point is the divine process is already in you. You don't have to contact God and beg for a miracle. You just have to pay attention. The call of the universe is the call to step up, to come up higher, to take charge of your life, to release your imprisoned splendor. You need only to know, to really know that the universe is calling. Listen, accept, and be all you are meant to be. The universe is calling. How will you respond? Glenn Yarborough and his daughter Holly in an album called Family. That's where I first heard You Cast a Long Shadow. Oh, Lainey, I remember that workshop very well. It was a Science of Mind weekend. And yes, I think Richard Morgan was probably the voice of God. He was well equipped for that. So Danis is not sure what the neck thing was trying to tell me. Pay attention. You'll get it. You'll wake up one morning or go to sleep one night and sit up and go, oh, that's it. And then you'll know. And you will have had a spiritual experience. That's the way it works. So I usually ask you what you would like prayer for and ask you to put it in. And I'm still going to do that. If you have a prayer request, please put it in the chat box. But I'd like you to think bigger tonight. What in the world would you like to have us add into our prayer? What world event, experience, situation would you like to have prayed for? If we're going to make the world a better place, we got to think about the world being better, don't we? I think we do. And I don't think we need to run away from it, to retreat from it. I think we just need to pray more or pray again. In that way that recognizes that the power, the spiritual power of the universe is calling us to be creators of a better world. What could be easier than praying for that? There's lots we can do, certainly. There are many things we could do to become involved and take action. And I think that's very much a situation of to each his own. You've got to do what you're called to do. You can't answer personally all of the problems of the world, even those with megabucks. Don't give all of it to everything. They pick and choose. So I'm asking you to do that too. What? For yourself or for the world at large? I'm getting it. Good for you guys. Let's take a minute, and if you'll all just put stuff in, I will write them down and we will pray together. It's been quite a week, hasn't it? So many things going on. So many things going on that touch our hearts, that touch our minds. I stopped watching the news for a long time, but I'm back with it because we need to know. I think we can't hide our heads in the sand. How do we know what to pray for if we're not paying attention? Got it, Edie. Got it, got it. Jennifer needs my note. Okay, darling, we love you. Know that you're in prayer. Okay, my darling friends. I'm going to start praying. If you still have input, just put it in. I'll catch it. I promise. I'll catch it. And then we'll say our statement together as we close. And just take a breath. Deep breath if that's what your body needs. A shallow, gentle breath if gentling is what you need. Do what's right for you. And close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, but otherwise just soft focus. And allow your attention to move within, to that still point, to that power point within you. And from that place, let us know that spirit is all that there is. Everything that was created, is created, will be created, and more. The power behind creation itself, the mind of the universe, the heart, the spirit of life, all life, every life. And we are part of that. We cannot be separated from it. If it is all that there is and everyone that there is, then it's all that we are. So let us accept that. We are spirit expressing as unique individuals, as you and me and us and they. All that there is spirit. And it is the creative motivating force of the universe. And just as in the beginning, when it spoke its word and everything came into being, and the promise of all the things that were yet to come, so when we speak our word, things come into being. Things change. Things are created, and things are transformed. And so I know tonight that which we have asked for, that which we pray for, that which we claim, even as we speak, begins to take form. And our belief holds it in place until it is fully formed in reality. And so we begin our prayers tonight with a request for peace in the world. Peace, lasting, abiding, life-saving, life-transforming peace. Particularly, we focus our attention on Gaza, on the feelings between Israel and Palestine, and know that as a cradle of faith, so the faithful join together to nurture peace and bring it fully into being. There is so much. We recognize tonight that Black lives matter. All lives matter because all lives are individualizations of the one and hold infinite creativity and possibility. Brenda has asked that we see others as ourselves and act accordingly. simply the golden rule, isn't it? With the exception that we fail to see others as other. Lainey has asked that humanity remembers that we are love. How beautiful is that? That we simply remember that we are love and respond accordingly. I know for Dana, healing, for Brenda, healing and clarity, for Heidi, a healing of the challenging human rights, human relationships, resources issue at work. Peace. Peace. I know for Jennifer, a sign, a clear and unmistakable sign. And for all of us, peace of heart, peace of mind, and clarity. I know that all of those who have requested prayer, whether privately or publicly, the prayer is answered. I know that. We have only to believe, to trust, and to respond. And so I ask you to repeat after me our statement this evening. The universe is calling.
The universe is calling.
We are here to answer the call.
We are here to answer the call.
With spiritual truth,
with spiritual truth,
with spiritual action,
with spiritual action,
and with love.
and with love.
To be agents of change in our lives,
To be agents of change in our lives,
in our communities,
in our communities,
and in our world.
and in our world.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Jennifer says, beginner's mind is calling. Well, isn't that? Isn't that a great part of it? To be able to put aside what we think we know and see the world through beginner's eyes. And to think the world with beginner's mind. We have closing music. Universe song. I like that. And if you get a chance, check back on the other suggestion. You cast a long shadow. I'm real partial to Holly Yarborough's version of it. I love you. Thank you for being here tonight. I think it's been a wonderful night. And I thank you for your participation, for your willingness to look at things in a new way and to be made new by changing your mind. I'll be here again Sunday at noon and next Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Please join me and invite friends. We're here to make the world a better place. That's our intention. That's our goal. That's what we're going to